Hello, and a very, very good evening, afternoon, morning, midnight greetings, wherever you are in the world. It's always so incredibly exciting to connect with so many people all over the world. And I can see quite a few people have already joined in. And it's just so exciting to see that over the next few hours and days, more and more people are joining and sharing the Reiki Revolution community, learning, sharing, caring, and bringing more Reiki into the world. And it's always very exciting to read the greetings from Merseyside in London, Denver, Colorado. Hello, Lawrence, that's wonderful. Hertfordshire in London, Cheshire, Edinburgh in Scotland, Durham, North Carolina. Wow. That's brilliant. Norfolk, Canada. It's so wonderful to have you all here to connect with all of you. So this is just great having you all here. And we'll just wait for a few more moments to make sure that everybody is there who wants to join, and that all the technical aspects work. Just looking at the moment, yes, our guest for tonight, Venetia David, is there, and I can see her. You can't see her, but you'll see her in a moment. And I'm really, really looking forward to what I'm sure is a really inspirational and exciting talk today. It's interesting. It kind of coincides with what we are doing with this new project of the Reiki Science Academy, reaching out and branching out a little bit more. It often feels like we are doing Reiki. Well, I'm doing Reiki, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So how does it compare? Rather than realizing we are all connecting to what the universe has to offer in terms of healing, help, community, spirituality, and different ideas. And the ideas are not rivaling, rather the opposite. When we really understand the different approaches to healing and spirituality, I find that they are immensely complementary. And tonight, we are going to have Venetia David here, who is the Senior Director of Alternatives in London. And for the last, I don't know, 40 years or so, even longer, they have been a platform to bring all these different takes together. So we'll have a very deep look at the connections and, of course, also why we all love Reiki and why Reiki is so important to be part of this of the offering of complementary therapies and spiritual pathways. We always start with a bit of reflection. And I realize that at present, there is a lot of reflection really needed in the world. Everybody is kind of very scared. There is a lot going on that is unhelpful, to put it mildly, mortifying, horrifying, outrageous, to put it as it really is. In our everyday life, there are so many challenges, and worldwide, there are so many challenges. So how does Reiki help with all this? In my personal way of how I use Reiki, for me, it's once I become aware of, I am connected. I am aware that I'm on a different vibrational level. Not instead of being here. I'm still in my body. I'm still engaging with the world and part of the world. But I'm also connected to a level where that is beyond the difficulties and the challenges in everyday life. And I think it's really important to embrace that and to open up more to these vibrational levels. I was, when I prepared earlier for tonight, I always put myself into the place of Reiki. And what I did is I took a deep breath and I was there. And I realized just what a beautiful gift this is, to just be able to take this breath and be in a different zone, on a different vibration level, in addition to where we are already. I tend to find that this is a journey, and it's not something I had when I started with Reiki or in the first few years. But there was one exercise that I absolutely love, that I feel really takes us there. It's in Japanese called Joshin Kokyo, or deep abdominal breathing. And we connect that with Reiki to bring Reiki into our body and fill our body with Reiki. And then bring Reiki into our energy fields, into our energy body, to fill that completely, so that we are not just connected and we feel this connection with every fiber of our being, but also when we go out and when we meet all the challenges, we are kind of safe. We are in this connection to Reiki, so the negativity doesn't harm us. Deep abdominal breathing is for some very easy, for others a very difficult concept. And I remember when I started yoga a few years ago, I didn't understand really the concept at all to begin with, because it's kind of the opposite of how we normally breathe. Normally we when we take a deep breath, we breathe into our rib cage. And at some stage it even hurts, because our ribs do not allow the lungs to fill to the whole capacity. So if we want to fill the lungs, we need to go deeper into the bottom of the lungs. And this is where our stomach is. So basically we need to get rid of our stomach, not by fasting, but by bringing it out. So basically you can see my stomach now coming out. And that's what we are doing. So when we breathe in, at the same time, we bring our stomach out. And because in between the lungs and the stomach, there's the membrane or muscle, the diaphragm, the two are connected. So when we bring our stomach out, at the same time, we pull the lungs down. And when we breathe at the same time, we breathe into the bottom of the lungs. And step by step, we can fill the lungs completely. And when we then combine that with Reiki, we breathe in Reiki. So when we breathe in, very simply, you breathe in and very slowly bring your stomach out. So you breathe in, and then you fill the middle and the upper part of the lungs. So you fill your lungs all the way up. And when you breathe out, just bring your stomach back in and kind of gently squeeze out the stale air. So we breathe in, bring the stomach out, fill the lungs all the way up. And when we breathe out, we bring the stomach in and gently squeeze out the stale air. But of course, we are practicing Reiki. So we are connecting that with Reiki. And that's very simple. As with so many Reiki exercises, the intention is the key. So all we do is we connect to Reiki and then intend that we breathe in Reiki. So we breathe in Reiki, and when we breathe out, we just breathe out the stale air. And I will talk you through the rest while we are doing it. So let's get ready to do this now. If you want to have a guided version of that later, you can always hit the replay button at any time. These videos will live on YouTube for, I don't know if forever, but for a very, very long time. So you can always go back, make a note. This was an episode where there was this particular exercise, and then just go into the first few moments. I'm sure you may want to stay then on as well, because I'm sure we'll talk about so many exciting things that you may want to watch that again as well. So let's just do this exercise together. When you're ready, just bring your hands together and set your intention that we are now connecting to Reiki. And just wait a moment until you feel the connection. And then you can bring your hands down and just focus on your breathing. Just take a few normal breaths, just a normal breath in and a normal breath out. Just slowly becoming aware that you are breathing. And then when you're ready, very slowly and deeply breathe in. At the same time, bring your stomach out. So you breathe into the bottom of your lungs. Then you fill them further up into the middle and the upper parts. And when you breathe out, slowly bring your stomach in and just breathe out the stale air. And again, slowly and deeply breathe in. Let your stomach rise. Fill your lungs all the way up. And slowly breathe out. If you have any difficulties struggling with that, or if you're pregnant, it does put a lot of pressure on the abdominal muscles, so you can just normally breathe in and out. But let's just try that once more. Slowly and deeply breathe in, bring your stomach out, fill the lower, the middle, and the upper parts of your lungs. And slowly and deeply breathe out. And next, when you breathe in, set your intention that you breathe in Reiki. Just breathe in and fill your lungs all the way up with Reiki. And when you breathe out, just exhale the stale air. And once more, slowly and deeply breathe in Reiki. Just set the intention. And on the out breath, just exhale the stale air. And now we go one step further. Continue deeply breathing in Reiki. When you breathe out at the same time, set your intention that you're expanding Reiki into your body. Just for a few moments, find your own rhythm, slowly and deeply breathing in. And on the out breath, step by step, expand Reiki into your body, your arms, your hands, your legs, your feet. And now we go even further. Continue breathing in Reiki at your own rhythm, completely filling your lungs all the way up. And when you breathe out next, expand Reiki not just into your body, but beyond into your aura. Again, find your own rhythm, deeply breathing in Reiki. And on the out breath, expand Reiki into your body and beyond, layer by layer, filling your entire energy body. And then just continue again and move into normal breathing. And for a moment, realize how you feel. Become aware of your energy field now filled with Reiki. And when you're ready, just bring your hands back together and just thank Reiki again. What I just find so extraordinary about this exercise is that we can really feel how big we are. This energy body, this energetic energy being, rather than just identifying with our physical existence. And also, of course, we then carry that with us. We are surrounded by Reiki. And when we go out, people can feel that. They can feel the love, they can feel the energy, they can feel the high vibration. And we naturally act and react differently. This is all what the Reiki revolution is really about. Being Reiki and sharing Reiki. Being completely connected and living this throughout the day. We're talking about this more undoubtedly in a moment, and I'm so very, very pleased to say hello to Venetia David. Hello. Hi, Venetia.
Hi, Torsten. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. It's like it's having a really, really dear friend here. So it's just so wonderful to have Vinisha finally here on the show. And let me just say a few words about Vinisha and about who she represents tonight as well. And then I'm sure we'll go much more deeply into that. So I met Vinisha when she already was a director at Alternatives, and Alternatives is the UK's oldest, biggest, and leading events company for spiritual speakers. And when I say events company, it sounds a bit odd. Of course, these are events, but these are not commercial events. These are life-changing events. And over the last 40 odd years, they have hosted Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, Marianne Williamson, Neil Donald Walsh, Eckhart Tolle, pretty much anybody and everybody, often introducing them to the UK, sometimes introducing them to the world. And as such, it's really hard to underestimate how important Alternatives is as an organization for how spirituality is perceived in the world today. And Vinisha was not always a director at Alternatives. She is a was a commercial marketing executive. And I just find it fascinating to then move into doing this so completely and powerfully, bringing spirituality into the world, and so many new speakers constantly being on the ball about developments, but also realizing, so what makes sense and what is just a passing fashion. And this is really a great gift, and we've known each other for quite a few years now, and I'm very, very privileged to be one of the people who is hosted quite regularly by Alternatives. So there we are. Hello, Vinisha, once more. Great that you are here.
Oh, thank you,
How shall we
Torsten.
start? Do you want to just tell us a bit about how you got to Alternatives?
Yes,
how you got into spirituality?
Well, yes, because Torsten and I have some synchronicity about how we got into spirituality. So, and we hope to tell you more about how Reiki fits into the broader spiritual world of today and why it's lasted so long. But years ago, I mean, this was over 15 years ago now, I read a book called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Now, I hadn't read a spiritual book like that before. I was just in Waterstones one day, which is synchronistically next door to the church where I work now. And they were just selling some books. I think it was 3 for £10 or something like that, some sort of offer. And I saw this book and I thought it was a fiction book. So I thought, oh, well, this looks interesting. And I bought it along with a couple of biographies because I used to read biographies. So this was in my mid-20s. And so I started reading this book. And of course, I thought it was a fiction. I thought this guy is imagining what it would be like if he had a conversation with God. I didn't understand about channeled material or anything like that. Now, I just read the book out of curiosity. I thought, I don't know if he is speaking to God, but I'm curious about where he's going. And of course, by the end of the book, I thought, I think he is speaking to someone higher than him, because it was so profound and it spoke to me so directly that I thought there was something in there that I'd never heard before, but it resonated as truth on a deeper level.
I think that was one of the early conversations we had, that this is pretty much how it started with me as well. It's fascinating. The very same book.
Yes, and the books came to us in funny ways. It wasn't a person. I just happened to pick it up, and you probably know Torsten's story about how he came across the book. This amazing story he had about how it came to him. But it's interesting, it was the same book, so it's no wonder I resonated with Torsten. As soon as I met him, we had something deeply in common. So I signed up to Neil's email list, and he said one day he was coming to London to give a talk, and it was at St James's Church. It was at Alternatives. And I remember thinking, oh, it's so strange a church would allow him to come and talk about his conversation with God. And of course, it was hosted by Alternatives. And I just started going to Alternatives every Monday evening because I knew they had the answers for me, something I'd been searching for that I didn't even know I had that search in me. And I was working
for people who don't really know much about Alternatives in London. It
Yes.
really is very well established, but it's also very connected with the church St. James's. And I believe many years ago, they were looking at ways of like alternative views on spirituality, alternatives to just the traditional Christian views. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So you're right. We are. It's our 40th birthday this year. So it was founded in 1982, and the rector of the church wanted to embrace ideas outside of normal Christian religion because he realised people were more wanting to call themselves spiritual rather than religious. So he said there should be a place at the St James's Church for an alternative type of belief system. And that's how we were born. So he was a very progressive rector. His name was Donald Reeves. And he allowed us to have an evening and a space in the church in order to hold our event. So it was so synchronistic that he was so progressive. But it is the home where William Blake was baptized. And if anybody knows about William Blake's poetry and artwork, he was very progressive, and he was very keen to go outside of the ideas of normal Christian religion. So he sort of shunned the traditional ways of painting Christian icons and had much more metaphysical paintings. So it's almost as if he was preparing energetically for us to be there years later. So an amazing space for us to be in. It's a Christopher Wren church, and it's very famous, and we're lucky to have our events there. And the church itself is very progressive and wants to be in conversation with all different belief systems. And part of the mission of the church is that they accept people of all religions or none. So they are an all-inclusive church, and everybody is welcome there. So, when I discovered it, and I thought, wow, this is an amazing place, because I grew up in a very traditional Christian church, I was so happy about how progressive they were.
So you went there every Monday?
Yes, every Monday since. Yes, absolutely. And I didn't miss. Everything revolved around the Monday night to make sure I could get there. And I just saw the most amazing teachers there: Eckhart Tolle and Marianne Williamson and Byron Katie. Thich Nhat Hanh was there in the 80s. Ram Dass was there in the 80s. So I learned a lot and started reading voraciously. I read Eckhart Tolle's work and Byron Katie's work, and really got into it. But I was working at a tech company at the time in Colindale, and I was doing marketing there. And I remember being at another event, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, do you go to Alternatives on Monday night?" She recognized me. And I said, "Oh, yes, I go every Monday." And she said, "Oh, I'm part of the volunteer team. Would you like to come and volunteer?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to." So I just thought, well, great. I'm there every evening. And it was a way for me to meet more of the community. And it just happened, a sort of series of synchronicities. The director at the time said, "Oh, you do marketing for this tech company. Can you come in and do the remarketing for our website and our brand?" And I said, "Sure, yeah, absolutely." So I came in as head of marketing to do some rebranding and social media for them. And then it just progressed. I then became director and now senior director of Alternatives. And none of it was planned. It was just for me being there all the time. I used to volunteer on all the events, and I was just a voracious student. I wanted to learn everything.
So I assume in a way you still are a student with all these speakers there, but of course there are so many speakers and it's very much in your hands now to stage it, to organize it, and alternatives have evolved from the regular once weekly evenings to day workshops, weekend workshops, retreats, and very big events as well. I think Eckhart Tolle was at the Royal Albert Hall with I don't know how many thousand people go in there. So you stage these really big events. So what's the idea now? What's the idea that you want to bring across?
Yes, well, we did have a full circle moment, Torsten and I, where we hosted Neale Donald Walsch for our first retreat ever, and it was in Montserrat Monastery. And Torsten and I spent a lot of time together on that retreat. Torsten came along to see Neale, and it was sort of a full circle moment because that's where I started my spiritual journey, and now I was hosting Neale in this amazing space. And then we had the idea to host Torsten there for a retreat because I thought Reiki would really work well with the energies of Montserrat and the Black Madonna. So Torsten put together this amazing retreat for us, and we went a couple of years later, I think the next year, to the monastery to do this retreat about Reiki. And Torsten, if you've read Torsten's latest book, he talks about Montserrat and the past life regression of the person who remembered they were a witch was me. And I thought, gosh, it was such a strange, I remember it was raining outside and I had a bit of a cough, so I didn't think I'd be able to go in deeply with the meditation he was doing for the past life regression. But I did. I got a date that was accurate. I Googled it, and it was the year of the Witchcraft Act. And so it was verifiable that my past life regression was real. So I really thought that being in the energy of the Reiki, of Torsten's past life regression, but also the Reiki and the other participants there who had raised their vibration so much with this Reiki, just created the perfect environment for us to have an accurate past life regression. But it taught me a lot about the healing arts and the place of Reiki in modern contemporary spirituality. And I think there's a reason why the pure Reiki, so there are a lot of variations, but really the pure form of Reiki that Torsten teaches is lasted so long, and why it's still relevant today, 100 years later. So, and when I met Torsten at a Hay House event, and it was a marketing event, and we happened to sit next to each other and we hit it off straight away. But there was something different about his energy. So I meet a lot of Reiki healers, but there was something about when Torsten was talking about it, I thought, oh, it seems different. It seems a more purest form of the Reiki. So having not hosted any Reiki alternatives for quite a while, we hosted Torsten. And we've done quite a few talks in the church now that Torsten's done, The World According to Reiki and the 100 Years of Reiki, and lots of different ones. But each talk uncovers where Reiki is in the scheme of things with contemporary spirituality. And I think that it's because of your vision of how you want Reiki in the world. The thing is about Reiki is it draws attention to your body. Now, we're doing a book club at the moment for Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. And he talks about some modalities that make you want to escape the body. And he said, nobody has ever reached enlightenment by going out of the body. You have to go further inwards. So, of course, that's what Reiki does, and that's what Torsten teaches. So the more attention you can give to your body, the more you're going to have clarity. And I think people think, oh, maybe it's just for physical healing. But actually, what Reiki can do is shed light on patterns that you need to address, or your shadows, or it can solve problems, or it can clarify your mind. It can shed light on something you need to work on. Or
it is very, very holistic, isn't it? Yeah, that's really what I often feel. Initially, when I started with Reiki, I felt it was really overlooked. And there was so much more to it, and everybody was just talking about it's a palm healing exercise, and I also do this and that. And I was thought, well, the more we do it, the deeper we go into that. But of course, it connects ultimately with everything that alternatives do. There's a different take on spirituality, but of course, the understanding what spirituality really is. And it is very simple. It simply means I am a spirit, nothing else. The realization that we are something beyond the body. But that doesn't mean, and that's so beautiful, that we need to go out of the body. We can realize it still being in this body.
Absolutely. And I think Reiki does that so beautifully. And I think the way that you teach it is great, because you do combine it with the spirituality and the ethics of the spiritual practice. And the more attention you bring in, you're sort of sharing this energy field. And the more you bring that in, the more you can align with it. And the harder it is to slip into old patterns and the darkness and the shadows. So when at Alternatives, we have a range of different classes, some of them very intellectual, very heady, some of them are more experiential, like movement classes. But essentially, I think everybody can do with some form of Reiki and sharing that connection, because it sheds light on everything. And so that will help you in every area of your life. So that's why I think it has come out as the number one healing modality, and probably the only, if you notice on our program, we don't host many healing workshops, but this one, because it's so holistic, I think it fits in very well, because that's the message of Alternatives, that it is supposed to be holistic. So it's just funny how I think it's having a resurgence, and it's probably due to your work and people realizing that the simplicity of it is really helping them, and that they don't have to have a belief system or something dogmatic. They just have to try it. So that works very well.
It's just the experience, and that's the beauty. You don't need to understand it. In fact, well, it's very difficult to understand it. The more we go into understanding, the more facets open. But we can kind of grasp it. But it is very much the experience. But you are I don't know how many different speakers you have on a very regular basis, but it's so many, and you go into these things. Do you see something that is kind of missing at present in the world of spirituality? Do you feel that there is something that is needed to be more focused on? Or is it basically all out there and we just need to understand it? I tend to find there are some kind of almost like waves. So there was this wave of angels. And of course, angels are still there, but it's kind of calmed a little bit down, and then there is something else coming up. So how do you see the world of different kind of spiritual speakers, teachers, and modalities at present?
Yes, I think there has been a resurgence recently of social awareness. And I think this is due to accumulation of all the spiritual practices, because the next step beyond that is to, once you've helped yourself, is to help somebody outside of yourself. And you've probably all, you're all Reiki healers on this who are seeing this, have experienced that, where you're doing a self-healing or receiving a healing, and you want other people to feel this way. You're thinking, if only other people could feel this content or this healing or this energy, because now it's too good to keep to yourself and you want others to experience it. And of course, that's a very difficult thing to convey, and particularly when you've just found something, trying to tell your friends, oh, you should try this. They're very skeptical, which is understandable, but you just want them to feel as good as you have. Now you've discovered this thing. So I think that broadens out, because you want that then for more than your friends and family and the people you know. You want it globally, because you know, if anybody was at the receiving end of a Reiki treatment, there's no way they could harm anybody else or want anything from anybody else, or experience greed or jealousy or a power struggle or anything, because they'd be content. And it makes you wonder, is this lack of contentment the seed of what is wrong with the world?
Yeah.
So
You
you want
obviously
to
you have
just
learned Reiki, you can feel it, you use it yourself, but this I like the idea of contentness. That is something, of course, once we are connected and once we don't just believe in it, but we experience it, then it's a completely different basis from which to move. And I often find that it's very interesting. There is always a bit of rivalry with anything and everything in life, also
yes.
with kind of different spiritual paths. And for me, Reiki is something that kind of just blends in and connects with everything. So we don't have to do Reiki or something
Yes.
else. We can really connect and combine these things, as I had done with the past life regression, which I found so interesting. And then I found that the use of Reiki and the openness of Reiki allowed us to go deeper, as you say. So I think it'll be interesting to explore how we can in the future connect Reiki more with spiritual teachings of other lineages and traditions.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Because funny that past life regression happened in a monastery, and Torsten's coming to St James's Church next year to do a past life regression in St James's Church. And I always think, of course, these regressions work anywhere. You know, it's about connecting to the energy of Reiki, but can be supported by a certain environment or a building. And what you'll have there in St James's Church is the energy of every spiritual teacher who's ever been there before. They do leave a sort of signature. And so that is a very conducive energy to connect with your past lives, because there have been so many seekers there, people who seek spiritual enlightenment, then that energy is just supportive of that. So I think that's really interesting. And like you said, it can work with anything. I think with the thing is about alternative religion or alternative spirituality is that you're out of the dogma of having to follow one thing and read one book and just follow that. You can try lots of different things, because your things are going to work differently for different people. So you can just incorporate it the way that you want to. And I think that's great about Reiki, is it's so flexible. Like I just did with Torsten Reiki 1 and 2, because I didn't want to go on to be a healer per se. And that's the flexibility of it. I can just do the healing on myself. And that works really well. And so there's no sort of, you have to complete the 3rd level to introduce it to your life. You can just do it as
once
a
the
personal
connection is there, it just works. That's absolutely amazing. And you also have now some Reiki done at the events.
Yes,
that you do.
that's right. Yes. And we have Reiki sent into the church before events and to clear the space. And that works really well. And, we like to incorporate as much of the healing as possible, because it does change the energy of, who you're welcoming into the events and into the church as well. So that works really well. And, I've just seen a resurgence of people interested in it, because also it's about self-empowerment. So the old style of spirituality was you have to go to somebody else in order to be healed. And so to be healed under your own hands is a very empowering thing. So we're not, giving our power to some guru or some religious leader. You're taking it back for yourself. And I think that's the new wave of spirituality, is that we there's no sort of hierarchy. You know that you have the power equally to anybody else once you're connected. And I think that really shows that Reiki is there to empower you, not something you have to follow, but something you can bring into yourself.
I think that's really amazingly put. And it gets very intense. I don't want to say controversial, but it's really interesting, because we are, of course, really with these things, with Reiki, also with things like conversations with God, we are cutting out the middleman. We don't need a clergy. And there's nothing wrong about the clergy, because it's wonderful to have people dedicating their lives to sharing things, to teaching things, to living it, to doing this. But it can also be just used in everyday life by everybody themselves. So it's a direct connection to whatever name we want to give it. the source of the universe, the origin, God, the highest force of the universe. And of course, that's ultimately empowering, because the more we do it, it's not that we connect to something else, but the realization that we are part of it. We are connected. So we are spiritual beings. We are part of the universe. And this, I think, so amazing. Of course, it is really the key of every spiritual teaching. But in Reiki, it's so very, very accessible, and that's so amazing. But in a way, it also, and we talked about that personally a while ago in depth, it means it empowers us, but it also gives us a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think we are more ready for the responsibility the more Reiki you do, because it will become the organic next step for you to want to take this further and beyond yourself, because, you know, it's important to concentrate on yourself first, of course. And if you're struggling, just to do the healing for yourself, but naturally you will go on to want to share it and to, you know, spread it out, and it makes you wonder and think about the more global concern. Think, if I can find this, why can't other people? And that is the thing about, after who am I, you're thinking, who is everybody else in relation to me? So you want to just move this further and share it in a very accessible way, that's not telling someone to follow anything or believe in anything, but just to help them. So I think that will be the next step of Reiki, is to bring it out and say, this is, I don't need you to believe in this. I just want this to help you, and to help relieve some of the struggles we're all going under. I mean, for don't even think globally, just thinking in your city, if you're in London, the cost of living crisis, all this sort of thing, it does help you psychologically to feel empowered, that you have the power to do something, because in the rest of the system, you can feel quite powerless. So to take power over your own healing
is, of course, connected. And we tap into this connection. So just the way we do these Reiki shares here, and then we feel all connected, we are connected with money. We are connected with the sources and resources. We are connected with nature. And once we feel this, we can start changing things and shifting things by opening up and by realizing how powerful we are. And the more people, of course, come together, the bigger this I find really can become a movement. It's so interesting. I see a lot of change that started with alternatives in London. And I do regularly bump into people who say, I've been to an alternatives event. That was really interesting. I've been always kind of very traditional in my approach, but because it was in a church, I felt I was, I could accept to go there, and I saw this completely different take, and so that was just fascinating. And
absolutely. Well, it's a sort of personification of oneness, and I think that's what Reiki is as well. When you're all connecting to the same energy, you can't help but touch each other as well. And that recognizes your oneness. So when Torsten takes you into a process, you're all connecting with each other on this call. You're all touching each other in some way. And so once you recognize your oneness, it is difficult to do harm to anybody else. So the more you practice it, the more you'll see the person in the street and feel a connection with them, and know that you're one, your brothers and sisters in some way. So that's why it's so important, because once you recognize oneness, you can't do any harm. And so that's what Reiki does. And it's beautiful because it does it wordlessly. It does it through a symbol and through an energy. So you don't have to intellectually understand everything. You just have to feel it. And once you feel it, the need for the language is diminished. It's because you felt it, and that's the most important
and
thing.
It deepens the understanding of other languages as well. So when a Catholic says something, I connect more with that and understand it more, because I had an experience of that kind. And I go deeper into that. So I feel it's really, really fascinating how these things blend together. And Alternus is just this incredible platform. And I'm so pleased that Reiki is really part of that. and that we go beyond this idea. So do you do Reiki? I do something else. But it's about bringing it together and realizing this is a very experiential way. Others are more intellectual ways. Others are more looking from traditional religious or philosophical perspectives, but ultimately it's all going in the same direction, because there is only one direction, and that is self-realization.
Yes,
Realizing
that's right.
who we really are. That's the only possible path we can go.
Yes. And the key about self-realization is you have to communicate with yourself in order to realize yourself. And that's what Reiki is. If you're focusing your attention inwards and feeling this energy, once you've felt it, you're feeling yourself. That's what the realization is. So you can't deny something you can actually feel in your body.
This is actually very, very profound, and something that almost, even for experienced Reiki masters, almost unbelievable to do, to take this final step of realizing it's not that I'm connected to Reiki, but I am Reiki. Yes. This is who I really am. This is the ultimate oneness, the ultimate connection to everything, and we experience that. So we experience this this truth. We experience that in often only aspects, because we are in a body and we have all these limitations of a body, but we can tap into this incredible power.
Oh, yes. And I think that, I mean, those of you who are watching this will know, as healers, you have probably noticed over the years people change towards you and change in your vicinity, because as you become Reiki and you become self-realized, the others around you will feel it. Even if they can't put words to it, they'll know something's different about you and gravitate towards you. And if any of you do a past life regression with Torsten, you probably had healing lives in past lives. You've probably been here before, and that's why you were naturally drawn to this here, because a lot of us came in as students with this need to know more. And so that is probably from past life in most cases.
That's so fascinating to see this karmic journey.
Yes. Yes.
On which we are already, and absolutely. So the fact that we're here, that we can have this conversation, that we can feel the connection, very likely means that we have been on this path for quite some time, so that we are finally able to open up so much.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's why we're all drawn. That's why all of you were drawn to Torsten as a teacher. Anybody who comes to alternatives is drawn to come there, because there's something that's resonating, something that feels at home, it feels familiar, it feels right. And that is some sort of past life, or something in your energy field, or someone you've been in contact with who's raising their vibration. Yes. And you automatically want to be part of it. And so that's what all Reiki healers are doing. You're making the world a better place, because people can resonate, and they just know in your vicinity something feels better, something feels more right, something feels more comfortable, and they want more of that. So that's the service you're doing as Reiki healers. People feel good in your vicinity. So that's why we have to keep doing it beyond ourselves. Even if you're just doing it for yourself, your people's experience of you will be better, because you are making them feel and recognize in them their oneness and their connection to you. So, and thus their connection with everybody else. So that's what we're doing. And it's so much, broader. I think it's hard because maybe over the years, Reiki was seen as sending energy to heal something, which of course it does, but it's so much more, because it's healing everything. It's healing your belief systems and patterns and sense of a false self, everything. So that's why it's so important to keep going.
As you describe it so much, may I just really just underline again that you are such an authority in this field, and you know so many things and so many people, and you basically have to always make this judgment, whether something makes sense, whether it is something that you want to open up to the 100 or whatever 1,000 people on the mailing list, and all the newcomers also worldwide to these things. And of course, a lot is streamed worldwide as well, so reaching a huge audience. So it's a huge responsibility, and to basically see Reiki within this and see the importance of Reiki is just very, very, very amazing. You very kindly did mention already that I'll be doing a past life regressions at James Church next year. I think it was on the
Absolutely.
1st of March or something like
1st
that.
of March, that's right. And just
But
to let everybody know, Torsten is the only Reiki healer. We host at Alternatives, and we host over 100 events per year. And Torsten is our chosen Reiki healer. We have approaches from other ones, but because Torsten's belief system is so aligned with a holistic and service-based form of Reiki, that's why we choose him, because we can trust that his form of Reiki is spiritually clear and high and contemporary for everybody. So, and to experience Torsten as well on the past life regression, you can join online as well. So I urge you, if you're not in London, do join online, because you'll be able to watch it again and again. And it was my only accurate past life regression. So so if you if you're going to join, then it's a wonderful experience in a wonderful building.
What else is coming up as alternatives over the next few months?
Yes, well, we always have a very wide range of events. So if you go to our website, which is just there's lots of online classes and lots of in-person classes. So we've got a world music concert in September with Paya. She's a wonderful vocalist. You can see that on the website. We have a shaman from New York coming. He's the founder of the Shamanic Portal in New York. It's at Berry. He's coming to do the autumn equinox and a dream tea ceremony as well in the Unitarian Church. We have a Power of Hypnosis weekend with Richard Bandler and Paul McKenna, and lots of other things. I mean, so many events. You'll have to go to the website to see them. And Julia Cameron's coming this weekend as well with her Seeking Wisdom.
Lots of big names. Obviously, Paul McKenna for hypnosis, and Richard Bandler, one of the founders of NLP. So it's
That's
always the kind of biggest names and authorities in their fields, which is amazing. So yes, I'd really suggest to everybody to check out alternatives.org.uk. It's just amazing, and now that a lot is online, of course, people can see it worldwide. There are other centers and platforms in the world as well, and often there are connections and the same speakers on different platforms. So this is such a wonderful work. Thank you so much, Vinisha, for
thank you for inviting me. Wonderful conversation. Thank you, Torsten.
Thank you for joining also the Reiki Share. So just stay on there after the show, and we'll just have a few minutes of a conversation, and I'm just going to move back. Oh, I'm not Venetia, so I'm going to take that out, and let's just complete this lovely show on YouTube with the experience of Reiki once more. And this is something, with this idea of Reiki science, we are of course going more into the research of all these things, but whether or not we research it, we simply can connect. And given that people can join in later, after this show, on a replay, and they still feel the connection and they still feel the healing, this is not a placebo effect. That is very, very tangibly there. This is simply quantum physics. So there is a connection. And the more we understand quantum physics, the more we understand how Reiki works over time and space. And indeed, the more we understand how we are all connected. Again, the idea of oneness that we touched upon, and that all the different ultimately all the different religious and spiritual approaches over the millennia tried to understand as well. It's just so fascinating, this whole world that opens up simply by the experience that we can have with our healing hands. So for the last few minutes, let's once more all join and send each other Reiki. First, connect to the source. Realize that that's basically what it is. Realize that we are connected. So a lot of people call Reiki a reconnective kind of healing. And that's really what it is, because we are connected anyway. We're just experiencing it and understanding it again. And then we connect to everybody else. So let's just bring our hands once more together and set our intention to connect to Reiki. And then when you're ready, set your intention now to connect with everybody who is live on this broadcast and who will join watching a replay at a later stage. Just really feel this connection. You can always draw the connection symbol to deepen this experience. And then just send Reiki to everybody. At the same time, receiving it from everybody. And the more we do that, the more we experience and ultimately realize that this is nothing else but tapping into the fact, the reality that we are all connected. And then you can gently bring your hands back together and just thank Reiki. The act of thanking, of gratitude, always really raises our vibrations as well. And when you're ready, just come back into the here and now. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for listening. I'm just looking at all these buttons I need to press all the time. So the Reiki Science Academy website is now live. It's not entirely as it's supposed to look in a few weeks' time, but it is functional. And you can already see a few more things, see what's going on in London in terms of live events and also in terms of online events, but there is much, much more coming over the course of September. This is when it's all really properly starting, going much more into the scientific research and the scientific connections. There are lots of ideas. There have been lots of suggestions already who to invite and include and collaborate with. And it's just such an exciting time. I really, really feel that is bringing Reiki into the 21st century. And as Vinisha mentioned, it is something Reiki kind of had a time where it went a bit kind of quieter. And now it's kind of resurfacing, resurging. And with this power, with this amazing experience, we can make the world a better place. And quite frankly, the world needs to become a better place. So thank you for joining. Thank you for creating this beautiful community and reaching out more and more to bring more Reiki into the world. I so look forward to seeing you again next week, Tuesday. Well, we'll be talking about bringing Reiki more into hospitals and about very, very practical ways of using Reiki as a complementary therapy in connection with traditional allopathic medicine. And yeah, every week we'll have new people. If you are interested in appearing on the show, if you have an experience to talk about, or if you have questions you would like to discuss in person, by all means, please get in touch. This is supposed to be really, really interactive. So have a wonderful rest of the evening, rest of the day, wherever you are in the world, rest of the week, and see you again very, very soon. Now I just need to find the right button again, and see you next week.